Hey team, Jen here. I am coming to you at the top of our second week of our graduate course at SNHU in Global Literature, and I wanted to say congratulations for making it through the first week. The first week can feel sometimes a little bit overwhelming. We're getting to know each other, you're getting to know the course, we're trying to figure out what the expectations are and how to meet those expectations. We also are This class demands a lot of you. There's a lot of reading, there's a lot of writing, there's a lot of discussion. So it's a lot to handle, especially in the first week. So I wanted to thank you for sticking it out and for showing up here at week 2. This week's video, as usual, will synthesize with the previous week to give us a little bit of reflection, and will also give us some tips for success in week 2. This week in particular, I want to focus on the function of the workshops, the function of my office hours, and also some insights into how to approach the texts for this term in terms of close reading and context. So that's a lot here at week 2, and I hope that you'll bear with me as I take us through some tips that can really help you be successful. Week 1, I saw a lot of great work in the discussion forums, and I thank you so much for your contributions there. Keep in mind that I do have some explicit expectations for how I'd like the forums to work. I encourage you to watch my overview video called How to Engage in the Discussion Boards. That will give you some insights into what I expect from graduate students. I don't like to see proof that you have read the text. I don't care. What I really do care about is that you've thought about the text, that you've grappled with it, that you're thinking critically and creatively about the text. So what that means for you in terms of the discussion board posts is that I don't really want you to summarize the text. That's not the objective of the forums, right? Most students this week, in week 1 rather, did a great job with showing that they've thought critically about the texts. If you are one of the students who did more summarizing and you don't quite understand how to analyze instead, I do have a video on that in my writing overview series on my YouTube channel, which I recommend that you bookmark immediately. That video can take you through some of the key differences between performing a summary and then performing an analysis and a close reading on the text. This brings me to my next point about close reading, and that is here in week 2, we are reading Albert Camus' The Stranger. The Stranger is one of my favorite texts. It is very complex, although it is extremely short. It is just a novella, and it's just jam-packed with controversy. There's so much going on here to unpack and to tease out that I really can't wait to sink our teeth into The Stranger this week. I want you to keep in mind, though, this week, how to close read a text. Here in week 2, it's a very good place to start thinking about how you read text critically. Now, we all read text differently, and that is just as it should be. But as we go through this course, I want you to start to develop a sensibility about how your reading of texts is different from others. How do you come to terms with literature as you encounter it? As you read The Stranger, I want you to think about that process and what that looks like for you. I have a video on how to close read texts in my overview series, and I'd like you to watch that video before you start reading The Stranger and absolutely before you make your workshop post this week. Because it's going to give you some critical insights into the difference between being a passive reader and being an active reader. Now, some of you are probably already well versed in how to do that, but I don't want to make any assumptions. We all come to this course with different backgrounds, so that video can be helpful for you while you read The Stranger. That leads me to the workshop. Now, this week in our workshop, I ask that you identify several things that provide a foundation for the first step of your line of inquiry toward your final paper. It's only week 2, but it's never too early to start the process of laying down a foundation that you can feel confident in that will allow us to build upon it as we move toward our final paper at the end of the term. Here in our first workshop, I want to outline what I expect from you and also what the overall expectation is for this workshop. Because for many of you, the workshop is a new thing. I want to make sure that you understand how important the workshop is so that you're not passing it off as a kind of subpar deliverable, because it isn't that. It's actually very important. First of all, this week's workshop asks that you identify a possible topic or a number of topics for your final paper. Now, this is going to ask you to do a little bit of exploratory research concerning your text, because you may or may not have read it before. Chances are you haven't, and I think that's wonderful. That's just as it should be. In order to think about some topics, you're going to have to do a little bit of work. Fun work, not daunting work. So the first thing that I would do some exploration. I would take a look at what other people are saying right now about your text. Now, you don't want to say the same thing that anyone else is saying, so you can use that portion of your research as a way to say, hey, this is what people are talking about. Do I have something to contribute in that vein that's going to be different and that's going to enhance it? Or do I notice that there's a gap of something missing in the research that's going on, something that occurs to you? And that's what you want to piggyback on. That's what you want to jump on. The second way that I would start researching is I would just take a look at what the text is about. Basic summaries can do this for you really well. There are some great summary websites out there that you can use. Take a look at what the plot is. Take a look at what happens in the text. Take a look at what genre it's in, what period it's in, who the author is, things like this. And then think about how you can connect some of these plots and themes and historical tidbits to your own personal interests. That's really key in trying to think about general topics and themes. So it's very important that when you think about how you want to approach this essay, that you think about your interests as one of the first steps. What do you tend to notice about your literature? What do you tend to value when you think about analyzing text? Let that be your springboard. That should always determine the topic of your essay, right? Don't let other things determine that. You want to start with yourself and your own interests and what you notice. The second thing I'd like you to think about in your workshop this week is context. Having a topic is extremely broad, and it's step one. It's a very good place to start. But as a graduate student, it's important that you think about paper topics in terms of context. Now, context is a word that I mean in a very particular and specific way for this course. I have an overview video called The Pleasures of Context, and I want you to watch that this week as well. There's a lot of videos to watch this week because it's going to outline for you exactly the kind of specificity that I want this week from you in the workshops. I don't want something broad and general. I want something extremely refined and narrow. And as you go through the course, I want that context to keep on shrinking. The shrinkier it is, the better it's going to be as an academic essay, because what we as academics do is we deal with specialties. We deal with something very narrow. We like to illuminate shards rather than holes. So as you start to practice that in this class, think about this workshop as step one for you in doing some contextualization of your topic. The third thing that your workshop is asking you to do this week is to think about your theoretical perspective, possible theoretical perspectives that you'd like to use. Now, in the final paper rubric, I outline a number of theoretical perspectives that you could use, but you actually should be combining theoretical perspectives. It's very rare that any academic will write in only one pure theoretical perspective. There are some, but mostly there aren't any. So I think it's important that you think about hybridization. How are you going to create your own theoretical lens that really articulates what you care about most? Now, I've listed off some. There are hundreds more. You're welcome to use any theoretical perspective that you would like. You'll want to draw from your literary theory course that you have taken here at SNHU already. Um, Yale University has a fantastic series of videos that give brief overviews of literary criticism and theory. I recommend those very highly. You can do exploratory research of your own, but everybody, I want you to be as specific as you can be about your theoretical interests. For example, if you're interested in gender studies, perhaps you're interested particularly in body politics and masculinity studies. If you're interested in cultural studies, perhaps you really want to hone in on children's issues. There's so many ways to refine your theoretical lenses. Again, I don't want you to ever be broad in this class. I want you to be contextualized, specific, hone in on your nugget and claim it. So that might feel a little bit overwhelming here in week 2, but I'm here to help you. And remember that this is a preliminary step and it need not be refined. It has to be a step in the right direction, but it can show that there's room for growth. So the workshop is very important in that way. Another way that the workshop is important is that it allows you to interact with your peers in your group in a way where you can exchange ideas at these critical preliminary moments. The workshop I want you to take extremely seriously. It's very important that you get your main post up on time and that you respond to students with a lot of detail. I'd like to see you offering students ideas that are going to help them to enhance their line of inquiry. If you're not sure what I mean by line of inquiry, I have a video on that. You can check it out. But you want to help students to enhance their line of inquiry as much as you can, offering rebuttals, offering enhancements, offering examples, offering alternatives. You want to constantly be bringing something to the table that's going to help to feed peers' interests, right? So that's what I want from you in the workshops. That's a lot of stuff. So if you have questions, you can go ahead and post them in the forum this week. Let's see, this week as well, you have your first response paper due, and that is on either the Metamorphosis or Death in Venice. If you use them both, keep in mind that this response paper is extremely short. If you are going to synthesize 2 texts together in a paper that is this short, you better make sure that it is extremely necessary for you to do so and highly contextualized. Otherwise, talking about 2 texts in one paper is nearly impossible. If you do see a thread that connects the 2 and you'd like to really hone in on that for your topic, for your paper, do it. Otherwise, it's probably a better idea to focus on one. And I want you to be extremely contextualized. Watch that video on context, understand it before you write this paper. Also, I have a video called What is the Academic Genre? If you are new to this academic thing, if you are new to academic writing at the graduate level, please watch my video, What is the Academic Genre? That will help you to grapple with who your audience is, what your objective is for every paper that you write in this course, and how you can meet the objectives well and successfully. The response paper can be daunting, I know, but it is a stepping stone for you as we head up toward the final paper, which will hopefully be of publishable quality in a peer-reviewed journal. That's my goal for you, and I do not think that it is excessive. I think that it is well within your reach. Whew! One more thing to tell you before I leave off today. If you feel overwhelmed, if you feel uncontrollably excited, if you feel completely lost at sea, please come to my online office hours. I can help you with any step of this process, whether it's thinking of a theme for your final paper, whether it's engaging in the discussion forum, whether you just want to talk about the text in more detail. whether you want to talk about any writing issues that you have, whether you want clarification, come to my online office hours. You can book a time. We get to chat through video or through text, whichever you prefer, and we get to know each other a little bit more. I hope to see you soon, and I hope you guys have a great week. Bye for now.